The gun was already aimed when the room realized something was wrong. Big Sam had stood behind Bumpy Johnson for 5 years. Taken bullets for him. Called him brother. And at 11:47 p.m., in a packed Harlem jazz club, Sam finally pulled the trigger on the man he was sworn to protect. The gun didn't fire. 300 people froze. The music died mid-note. No one shouted. No one moved. Bumpy Johnson didn't jump, didn't flinch, didn't even turn around right away. He finished his drink, set the glass down gently, and only then turned in his chair. "I've been counting on you." The words landed without force, which made them worse. Sam understood immediately that this moment hadn't gone wrong tonight. It had gone wrong long before he ever walked into Lenox Lounge. 3 weeks earlier, Harlem was holding its breath. The numbers racket was the spine of the neighborhood. Nickels and dimes from people who didn't have much, adding up to more money than outsiders ever believed. The Italian mob had been circling it for years, pressing from the edges, confident that time and pressure would finish the job. It always had. There was just one problem they couldn't wear down. Bumpy Johnson didn't rule Harlem by fear alone. He paid rents when families fell behind. He made phone calls when police leaned too hard on black businesses. He remembered names. He returned favors. Loyalty under Bumpy didn't feel demanded, it felt earned. That made him dangerous. And it made him expensive to remove. When force failed and bribes stalled, the strategy changed. You don't attack the king directly. You hollow out the ground beneath him. You find the man who stands closest when his back is turned. That man was Big Sam Foster. Since 1953, Sam had been a fixture at Bumpy's side. Big, quiet, steady. He'd taken bullets and never talked about it. He'd stood next to Bumpy when Bumpy buried his mother. He carried himself like someone who believed loyalty was permanent, not rented. Which is why the approach came quietly. A black Cadillac idled outside Sam's building on 132nd Street, late August heat clinging to the pavement. Tony Maroney sat in the back seat and spoke like a man offering relief instead of betrayal. He talked about hospital bills. About Sam's youngest daughter. About how loyalty doesn't mean much when time runs out. Then he opened the briefcase. $50,000 doesn't look like money when it's stacked neatly. It looks like answers. Sam didn't say yes that day. He didn't say no either. He took the briefcase because it was already there, because curiosity is easier than refusal, because walking away would have meant admitting the choice existed at all. That night, Sam lay awake listening to his daughter breathe, counting the seconds between each rise of her chest, knowing time was doing what bullets hadn't. 3 days later, the phone call lasted less than a minute. "I'm in," Sam said. The decision was made. And decisions have gravity. Bumpy Johnson found out the way he found out most things. Quietly, from someone nobody watched. A parking attendant named Jerome noticed the Cadillac outside Sam's building. It stayed too long. The plate looked familiar. He wrote it down and didn't know why until later. 2 hours after that, he was standing in Bumpy's office above Small's Paradise, holding a scrap of paper like it weighed more than it should. Bumpy didn't react when he read the name. Tony Maroney was a collector. A specialist. If he was near Sam, it wasn't accidental and it wasn't friendly. Bumpy paid Jerome, told him to forget the morning entirely, and sat alone after the door closed. He could have killed Sam that day. One word would have been enough. That was the expected move. The clean move. The move that ended problems fast. But Bumpy had survived by refusing to do what was expected when expectation benefited his enemy. Killing Sam would have solved the problem, and taught the Italians they were close enough to scare him. So Bumpy waited. He watched the tremor in Sam's hands when he lit a cigarette. The way his eyes lingered too long on nothing. He recognized the look immediately. It was the look of a man running numbers that don't add up cleanly. Survival versus loyalty. Money versus time. No good answers. Just deadlines. Bumpy didn't confront him. Confrontation gives men room to lie. He needed certainty. And certainty only comes when a man believes he's alone with his choice. Over the next 3 weeks, Bumpy let the plan breathe. He let Sam believe he was unseen. Let the Italians believe they were finally clever. Then he started building the answer. Victor was a gunsmith in Brooklyn who never asked questions. He'd been adjusting weapons for Bumpy since before most men knew his name. When Bumpy asked for a gun that looked right, felt right, and failed perfectly, Victor paused just long enough to understand the weight of the request. What he delivered was flawless in its deception. Balanced. Familiar. Dead. The timing mattered more than the tool. Bumpy sent Sam on an errand to the Bronx. Tedious, specific, impossible to rush. While Sam was gone, Bumpy and Illinois Gordon let themselves into the apartment. Bumpy went straight to the shoebox under the bed and lifted the gun like it was something fragile. He swapped it. Closed the box. Stood there a moment longer than necessary. From that point on, there was nothing left to do but wait. If Sam backed out, the Italians would try again. If Bumpy moved too early, the lesson would stay private. He needed the room. The witnesses. The sound of a choice failing all at once. By the time Sam stepped into Lennox Lounge, the night was already moving without him. The band was deep into a slow set. Smoke hung low. Bumpy sat where he always did, back to the room, hat off, gray suit sharp enough to cut light. 2 councilmen leaned in close, talking permits like the future could be scheduled. Sam took his place near the bar. Nobody looked twice. That was the point of him. The gun rested heavy in his jacket, familiar weight, familiar promise. $50,000 had a way of pulling the future forward until it crowded out everything else. When the opening came, it felt smaller than he expected. No signal. No drama. Just Bumpy's back turned and the space behind him clearing like it always did. 6 steps. 4. 2. He drew the gun. The bartender saw it and froze. Sam didn't. He saw only the back of a man who had trusted him completely. He pulled the trigger. The click landed harder than a shot ever could. The band stopped. A glass shattered. 300 people went still at the same time, like the room itself forgot how to breathe. Sam pulled the trigger again. Nothing. Bumpy finished his sip. He set the glass down gently and turned. "I've been counting on you." Sam's knees went soft. The gun slipped from his hand and hit the floor, loud in a silence that had nowhere to hide. He understood then, this wasn't mechanical. This was personal. "I know about your daughter," Bumpy said. "I've known." He slid an envelope onto the table. "Her bills are paid. Every one. There's more for your family." Sam tried to speak. Nothing came out. "I needed to see what you'd do," Bumpy continued. "Who you were when nobody was watching." He stood. Not rushing. Not looming. The room adjusted anyway. "You're leaving tonight," Bumpy said. "You take your family and you disappear. If I ever see you again, we won't be talking." Sam nodded. There was nothing left to offer. "And when they ask," Bumpy added quietly, "you tell them the truth." Sam picked up the useless gun and walked out. The door closed. The lesson stayed. The band came back in softly. Chairs shifted. Glasses lifted. Lennox Lounge returned to itself, but nothing in that room was the same. 300 people had just watched a man aim a gun at Bumpy Johnson and walk out alive, ruined, and empty-handed. Harlem understood immediately what had been spared. By morning, the story was already moving faster than facts. What mattered was simple. Bumpy had known. He had waited. He had turned an assassination into a confession without spilling blood. The Italians heard it before breakfast. By noon, the 5 families were in a room together. Frank Costello wanted Tony Moroni's head. Someone else wanted another plan. Carlo Gambino listened, cigar unlit, and ended it with one sentence. You don't keep attacking a man who's already waiting for you. Harlem wasn't lost in a war. It was conceded quietly, because nobody wanted to be the next lesson. Sam was gone by nightfall. Detroit swallowed him. He worked construction under another name and carried the sound of that click for the rest of his life. Bumpy went back to his routines. Same table. Same drink. Same streets. He lived another decade not because he was untouchable, but because touching him had become too expensive. He never explained the lesson. He didn't have to. If you want more stories like this, where power moves quietly and the real decisions are made long before the gun comes out, stay here. Subscribe, and let the next one find you.